Well, hello, you all. Thank you for being here with me and joining me once again on my podcast, A Legacy of Love, that shares my own story, the adversities that I had to pass at such a young age. But as I've always mentioned, it's not about me, it's about all of us. And I think we all have a story to share. And today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Laura Stevens. Thank you, Laura, for being here with me today.
No problem, Analee. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, we would all love to hear your story. And I share my story, and my book shares it that it was baby steps. And we would love to hear a little bit about you, maybe what you do, um, whatever you would like to share, what you had to overcome, your own personal journey and experiences.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to share. I'll get the boring stuff out of the way first. So, what I do for work, I'm a federal government employee. I work in training and learning. So, I create courses. It's not boring. I create courses for federal government employees. So, that's what I do for full-time work. And part-time, I'm a life coach. And I help women who've suffered any form of abuse to overcome some of those things that have happened to them and teach them actionable steps to help them get through to the other side
Most
after they
definitely.
experience those things. So that's what I do on the side. And I've also just published a book. It's called Never Again, the story of how I broke the cycle of abuse and found love, hope, and freedom. And that can be purchased on Amazon. Yeah, so that was quite the journey to writing my book. Yeah. So
Interesting.
that's a little bit about me.
Uh-huh.
I can talk more about what I've done and what I've overcome if you'd like.
Of course, we definitely, I know that this story, your story, will help a lot of people and will
Mhm.
impact in different levels, different scales. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that have been in a very dark place during COVID or even before that. And most definitely, I admire people like you that are willing to be open and to share their own experiences because it does take courage. And we definitely appreciate the fact that you want to share your own journey. And it seems like that's what you do now for a living, empowering people, helping them with different tools. And we all have different stories. And we would thank you for you to share today your own journey.
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah. Yeah, so I've been on quite the journey, starting from a young age, experiencing emotional and narcissistic abuse from my stepfather, my mom passing away suddenly when I was 19, um, and then going on to be in several abusive relationships after that as well. So I'll start with the this. So I don't know if I had already mentioned. I mentioned the narcissistic abuse. I've also experienced sexual assault. So that's it's a sensitive topic, but also something that needs to be talked about. And people, I'm hoping that people that hear my story will be more open to talking to a therapist or a trusted friend or someone about it. I was sexually assaulted when I was traveling overseas, and I was alone, and it was scary. But when I got back, I decided that I wasn't going to let it ruin my life, and that I needed to do something about it. So I sought out a sexual assault survivors group, so that it was kind of like a group therapy session. They had organized activities and exercises for us to do and things that helped us. So we all had the opportunity to share our stories with each other, and it was a safe space for sharing. And then we did exercises like writing letters to our abuser and
Mm.
burning them, things like that. And I found it very helpful, because it released a lot of negative energy and negative feelings that I had about the situation. And hearing other people's story also made it less, made me feel less alone, but also the impact of it was, lessened over time because I could share with other people what I had gone through and vice versa. And so I felt better about it, if that makes sense.
No, no, it does make sense, most
Yeah.
definitely, because you recognize that you're not the only one. And
Mhm.
when you're going through something like that, I actually experience somewhat that kind of pattern that you mentioned about having in your past several people that were very narcissistic. You feel that you're the only one dealing with that
Mhm.
kind of situation. What's to say that but when you see that you're not the only one, that there's other people beside you, around you, it
Mhm.
really allows you to recognize that, it's okay not to be okay. It's not okay to stay in those circumstances, but it's okay because you recognize, as you just mentioned, hey, there's other people that are also dealing with this. Hey, I
Mhm.
thought I was the only one. I
Yeah.
bet that actually rings a bell to you as I'm saying that, because that's how I
Mhm.
felt. And I was always very quiet about it. So
Yeah.
how were you able to overcome this? Did someone talk to you about this not being right? Did you figure it out on your own? What happened that you ended up breaking through this cycle and this lifetime? It's a lifetime experience, and I
Yeah.
understand that too.
Mhm. Yeah. So the lifetime experience and the cycle of abuse was mainly with the narcissistic abuse, and how it went from childhood into my romantic relationships. And because I didn't know any different, I thought that that was normal. I thought that partners just made their, I knew it wasn't okay, but partners lash out at their partners, or say mean things, and just it's okay, they're just having a bad day, or just excusing the bad behavior. But I did realize at a very young age, and I think I did most of the work myself, but I think I just had a different experience, and a different outlook on life, even from a young age, which I guess you could label as being resilient and figuring things out. So I was 11 years old when I made the decision to not be like the rest of my family. And that was pretty powerful, um, being 11 and knowing that you don't want to be abusive or negative, narcissistic like your father figure. And also, I didn't want to be like my mother, who just sat there and took it and let it happen all the time. So
Hmm.
I did make that decision early on, but I was 11, so I couldn't exactly leave home. um, yeah, so when I got to the age where I could do something about it, I always made sure that I was in therapy was a big thing.
Mhm.
Having someone to talk to about it, even if I couldn't talk to close friends or family, at least I could talk to my therapist about it. Another thing I did was I went to school for psychology, and even though like the overall goal was to be able to help people and become a therapist, it actually really healed me because I learned so much about different personality types and different mental health disorders, and it really helped me to understand human behavior and why people do what they do. And one of the big things that I talk about in my book is forgiveness.
Yes.
And not a lot of people understand forgiveness fully. And I'm not saying that I do, but I needed to be able to forgive the people that hurt me in order to move on. And that's what finally freed me. And so, like, for example, my stepfather, I saw him when I was a child, I saw him as just a mean ogre, and he's so mean, and I can't believe he grounded me for nothing, and that kind of stuff. But as I was able to change my perspective and learn about behavior and empathize with him, actually, I saw that he was also mistreated and abused as a young boy,
Mhm.
and he was just repeating the cycle. So he was doing the best he could with what he had, and that allowed me to forgive him. It doesn't mean that I liked it or let him treat me that way anymore, or that he's excused for his behavior. It just allowed me to let it go and move forward with my life. because otherwise I would have been stuck thinking all those negative things that he said about me, or saying bad
Mm.
things to other people maybe too.
What would you tell someone that what comes into my mind as you're saying all this and sharing about forgiveness? You're
Mhm.
right. There is a lot of people that are still nowadays stuck and they just can't forgive.
Mhm.
What would you advise someone that's going through this and they're still battling with forgiveness? What would you
Mhm.
tell them, Laura?
I would say just look deep inside yourself and do whatever you can to let it go. It's, if you're still in the situation with the abusive person or the toxic person, take that step. Um, you might be scared, you might not know where you're going to live, you might not think you have enough money to make it on your own, but take that step. Even the tiniest step, like telling a friend or a trusted therapist what's going on, that's going to make everything change. Like, you'll feel so much freedom. And also when you make that choice, so also say this to my clients and in my book, make the choice to make a change. No matter how small that change is, the universe or God or karma, whatever you believe in, will have your back. Like, when I left my ex abusive partner, I had no idea where I was going to live. I had no idea if I could afford to pay all the bills on my own. I had an infant son, and I was just terrified, but I knew I couldn't
Yeah.
subject him to that, and I knew I couldn't be in that situation anymore. So I took the step, and you wouldn't believe the people that helped me get through it, like people that you don't even think are your close friends. They're just like, hey, I have a car that you can have, or hey, here's some money for groceries, or I'll watch your child so you can go and find an apartment. So I just believe so much that once you make that choice for
Hmm.
yourself, the universe will have your back. And another thing that I would say, and I do say this often, is just think about the future. So a lot of people struggle because they're like, oh, I'll be okay. It's fine. It's fine. Because they know how to deal with the outbursts or the abuse, and it's better than being alone. It's not better than being alone. And if I can say anything, um, it's sorry, I'm thinking and my mouth is going faster than my brain. Um, Yeah, so the one thing that I would say is to think of your children or your future children. If you can't do it for yourself, think of them. And if you don't have children, just think of your future in general. Like, how is it going to look if you stay where you are?
Hmm.
And, just do it. Take the action, and you've got this. The universe has you, your friends, your family. You will be okay. It,
Yes, I think
it
that
will be better.
if you don't let go, the way I saw it was, even though you know that you didn't cause this, that it was done by someone else.
Yeah.
Well, we understand. Do they deserve forgiveness? Probably not. But at the
Mhm.
same time, when you're forgiving, it's not that you're going to have a relationship with these people. It's that you're letting go. You're
Yes.
setting them free. Because if you don't set them free, you're going to continue even with other relationships and cycles because you're still stuck there.
Yeah.
Behaviors, things that you don't even think or know of. And you're going to be filling your heart with bitterness, with
Mhm.
anger. And instead of allowing yourself, even though they don't deserve it, that doesn't mean you're going to have a relationship with these people. It means I forgive you because I know I'm worth it. I know that my life and my future are of a higher interest than
Mhm.
what you did to me. I want my future to be fulfilled. I
Yep.
want to allow myself to be my best version and not allow those behaviors or those things that you did to put me down and to leave me stuck in that place that is not healthy, that is a dark place. And that's how I saw it. Um,
Mhm.
as people are here, and I know that they're listening, and I know that They want to know more about you. That you finally were able to break out of it. I would assume you did therapy. I did therapy myself. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in a God, and I knew what I needed to do. I would always go to what I was taught, and my mom taught me to seek that higher power, and
Mhm.
also to do therapy. What were the steps or the things that you actually did
Mm.
to get you to the right place, to get you uh, out of bondage and allow you to be free.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so just like you, I've been in therapy on and off for most of my life since my mom passed away. Just at different times, if I'm struggling with different relationships or different things in my life, I'll go back to therapy. Um, Another thing that's been very helpful for me is to do the deep healing work. So on a higher level than just, talking about what happened. Actually, I've actually, it sounds scary, but allowed myself to go back to that situation and feel the feelings so that I can let them go. And writing my book really helped with a lot of that
Yes.
too, because I was talking about the terrible situations and traumas that happened to me. So I did feel those things again, but then I was able to release that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also work with a life coach who specializes in like spiritual, holistic area.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of leads me in guided meditations as well, where I can picture, like talking to my 5-year-old self or my 11-year-old self, and having those interactions on a higher level, so more of a subconscious level where you don't usually go.
Yes.
It's just very deep and very like healing. So you're able to let go of a lot more than the surface level stuff.
No, I agree. And also recognizing you went through this, learning to forgive yourself, because I think that that's also a big key in all this. Maybe your personality, because my personality was very quiet and I
Yeah.
put up with a lot personally. And I believe there's a lot of people out there that also have a hard time forgiving themselves for not being able to change the past. But allowing yourself to forgive yourself for things that you were not truly in control of, because sometimes people want to they tend to want to blame themselves for things that are not really in their hands. Most definitely it really will bring light to your environment, to yourself, to your well-being and people around you. And most definitely if you have children, as you mentioned, or you plan on having children, you want to be your best version for them. And even if you don't have any children, you want to be your best version for yourself, to learn to love yourself, to learn to give yourself some time during the day to do things that allow you to feel good, whether it's listening to music, maybe writing a poem, as you said, writing your book, something that will empower you and allow you to feel better and know that it is well. Even when you're not well, it's well not to be well, but it's not well to stay in those kind of circumstances where you're being put down and you know that it's not something for you. I would love for you to share a last message with us because I know you have a lot to share. How could they reach you? Um, a little
Mhm.
bit, as a closing message.
Sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. So the thing that came to mind when you were talking about forgiving yourself and being your best version, it, it's just so important to recognize that 99% of the time it's not about you, it's about them. They're acting from their place of trauma, so they're not their best version of themselves. So I was able to figure out and realize that my stepfather, he didn't hate me and he didn't want to treat me badly. That was just where he was at. And it was not my fault. I was a child. I had nothing to do with his behavior. I
Yeah.
could have been the perfect child, and I was a pretty good kid. He still would have been the same person. So it is not your fault. You did not deserve to be treated the way you were treated. You still don't deserve to be treated the way you're being treated. And give yourself grace and patience and time to really come up with a plan and do the deep healing work to become the best version of yourself, because it is worth it. I can tell you, I used to blame myself for my mother's death as well, because I was the last person that saw her before she left. She died in a car accident. And
Mm,
I always asked myself, I should have told her not to go. I should have said something. I should have, said I needed her or something. And, I logically, it was not my fault. The accident was not my fault. I had nothing to do with it. It was the weather conditions and other, exterior factors. But
mhm.
I always blame myself. But once I was able to really take a look at the situation and forgive myself for it, I just felt so much freedom. And you're also able to help other people once you can do that too. So it's so, if I can be there for someone that's gone through anything like that, it makes everything better, because that's, I want to spread the healing, spread the love. Yeah, so that's, I could talk forever, but uh, the best way to reach me is through my website. I have a website for my life coaching. It's www.laura's-life-coaching.com. There you can book an appointment for a free consultation to see if we can work together as a coaching client. There's also a section there for my book where you can order my book. I'm also on social media, Facebook as LM Stevens-author, or Instagram at LLC_life coaching. Yeah, so those are the best ways to get a hold of me. And I look forward to hopefully hearing from all of you, some of you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing about your journey. That really means a lot to me. And for being here on my podcast, A Legacy of Love. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome. Thank you.